versus all y'all, continuing the previews of different regions around the state for this fast approaching high school football season. We're up in the northwest corner with the Shreveport-Bossier Advocates, Roy Lang, who has been on the channel before a few years back in a different capacity. But man, it's good to see you again and then catch up a little bit, and I appreciate your time.
Man, I appreciate you. You're a legend. I mean, why wouldn't I want to be on with you? That was getting back in this business. That was certainly one of the things. Heck, you were one of the first people I talked to because I was like, I know Jared, I know he's going to know some of the stuff that I need to know. So appreciate all the hard work you've done not just now, but over the years. And couldn't be happier to be on here, buddy.
Man, I'm always a pleasure on my end. I told you, I'm just trying to keep up with you and the rest of the folks around the state. So you're always too kind, man.
We need you back up here for the World Cup again. That was fun watching the World Cup with you. So hopefully we can do that when it's in the States. That'd be fun.
Yeah, that'd be awesome, man. Well, let's jump into it and not slow play anything. We'll jump right into this 5A district that feels like it's got about 1 million teams up there in 5A. And that group is, for folks that are less familiar, and I mean, we're in a redistricting process, so maybe folks are still kind of catching up, but Airline, Benton, Bird, Captain Shreve, Evangel making the jump up back to 5A, Houghton, Huntington, Natchitoches Central, and Parkway. And I don't know where you want to start. It's always a really competitive group and just adds some more fuel to the fire with a resurgent Evangel team in there. But what are your thoughts as you try to make some sense of what to expect from 5A in 2024?
I think the first thought is, who's the bad team? Southwood went down, and I'm not trying to dog Southwood, but I mean, the record speaks for itself. The numbers, they were up against it numbers wise. So they had a rough time, but who is it now? I mean, that district is stacked. Evangel, obviously the big buzz coming up is Evangel, but let's not forget the teams that have been really good. We got to start with Airline. Certainly, I believe you could view it as an upset that they did not win district last year. Heck of a season by Captain Shreve, rolled the table for the first time in school history. But Airline just seemed like if there was going to be a team that made a deep run, it could be Airline. And, the one thing that came back to bite them, which had during the year, even though they won some of the games, was defense. I mean, and point out that they got eliminated in the playoffs, even though they scored 50 points. So Airline's going to score some points. Ben Taylor, Kenny Darby, they're going to score 50 a night, it seems like. And Ben Taylor led the state with 4,100 yards, 49 touchdowns, something like that. So it all starts, I think, with Airline's offense. But can Airline stop some people this year? Because there's going to be a lot of offenses that are going to score some points. That leads us to Evangel. What are they going to do? I mean, they're back in 5A. They've got the talent, but they certainly are going to have more players, more turnover on their roster than anybody else. And what week is everybody going to be eligible? I know Pop Houston, the greatest quarterback that hasn't made a high school start yet. You've seen him play as much as anybody with 7-on-7. So the accolades and the hype seems to be real. Talking to Brock Berlin, who's working with him at Evangel now, he's like, he is the real deal. But Pastor Denny Duran says we got about 17 receivers. So how is that gelling? I mean, seriously, how is that gelling in the off season? Because who's getting 1 reps, right? How many guys can you possibly get 1 reps with Pop? And how is that going to evolve? I think we're going to see Evangel. I think we're going to see a much different team in week 5 than maybe we see in week 1 with Evangel. But with all that talent, all the guys that came from everywhere, which I'm still not sure who is all there. When I see that week 1 roster, I'm certainly going to pay attention to it. But they're going to be a force come the second half of the year. Maybe not necessarily in a district race, because with all those teams, district starts early. But Evangel, that's the team to watch, not necessarily the best team.
And again, there's so many solid teams in that group, and you hit on, obviously, Airline and Evangel, a little bit of Captain Shreve and the success they had last year. Bird has, folks have in recent years caught up to Bird in a way that they hadn't in a while, and, given them some tough weeks and tough seasons by their standards. But is there a team in that group that maybe folks outside the Shreveport area would be surprised to see some of the potential there that they could, whether it be, and most of that district schedule is a district schedule. But I guess by the time you get to playoff time, that maybe folks around the state don't know as much about, but could surprise them because there's a lot of potential there.
Well, first, I want to make sure I'm not throwing Shreve out. I may have sounded like that, but they're up. They have some challenges this year. First year head coach Jeremy Wilburn. They lost Jamarlin Otis. They lost Devin Harper.
Mhm.
LSU recruit commit to Calvary, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. But they still have some good guys. Lionel Prudhomme, obviously Arkansas commit. They got some really good guys on defense. So they're good, but they've got some of the stuff we just talked about with Evangel, some turnover, some new guys. It's going to be tough. The team that really interests me is Parkway. Parkway's had a really good defense. They had Airline on the ropes last year. Nobody stopped Airline. Parkway was doing it for the better part of 3 quarters, and then things changed. One call really changed that game. Parkway just hasn't had the offense recently. I think they're going to get some more points this year, and they're going to be very good on defense. So if you're looking for a spoiler, and I'm not, it's not like Parkway's been bad, so they're not totally off the radar. But I think Parkway's going to be a little more balanced this year, and maybe could, throw a wrench into things.
Yeah, Parkway is definitely an interesting team to me to watch for sure. And like you said, they've been good, but it seems like as much attention because of the playoff run of Airline last year and all those points, and because of all the talk of Pop and everything, that
Right.
Parkway is kind of flying under the radar a little bit from a statewide perspective. Um, transitioning into that 1-4A district where I think most folks after the last couple of years around the state know they need to keep an eye on North DeSoto. And that group, along with North DeSoto, is Booker T. Washington, Bossier, Loyola Prep, who climbs up, Minden, Northwood Shreveport, Southwood that you mentioned, moving down from 5A, and then Woodlawn Shreveport. Is this year for Coach Dunn and company with those Griffins? Is it going to be another year where we're watching North DeSoto among the top contender type teams on a statewide level, do you think? And then, what else are we watching in 1-4A of maybe a little bit of a sleeper surprise spoiler type team for folks as well?
I mean, I think it would be stunning if North DeSoto wasn't there again in some capacity, certainly in the district. I mean, Luke Delafield's only a junior. Is that
Yeah.
it seems like he's been around for like 5 years. I mean, seriously. And Cole Corey, a lot of people, and listen, I'm not saying it, but I've heard from people that know, that I sort of believe in a lot of stuff, could be one of the best receivers in the state. I mean, we're not just talking about the best receiver locally or one of, but so that combination right there. I mean, Jared, you just think about, we talked about Ben Taylor and Airline. Now we're going to Delafield, who was number 4 in the state. Shreveport had the number 1 passer, Taylor, number 2 passer, Abram Wardell, who we're talking about, and Luke Delafield, number 4. Those guys combined for 11,000 yards, 132 touchdowns, and 21 interceptions. I mean, those are just crazy. So come back to Northwood, they're going to score points. They've got those 2 guys already mentioned. They always seem like they have dual 1,000-yard rushers that you may not have known their name before the season. All of a sudden, they got 2 kids rushing for 1,000 yards. Lake Bates filling that hole defensively is going to be not a problem, but it's those are big shoes to fill defensively. They were so good defensively. And in order to make it to where they want to go, back to the Dome, they fell one step short last year of going back. Defensively, they're going to have to be as good as they were, but they're going to score points, and they're certainly the class of the district. But the Northwood Falcons, they always seem to be in the mix. I mean, whether they've had a couple slow starts and then they're there at the end. Usually, we get that North DeSoto game late in the year, but since everything changed, I think it's week 4. Yes, it's week 4. So really, you're going to weed out somebody early on in that district race right there.
And I mean, we'll just kind of keep rolling along. District 1-3A, you guys. It's not even really Shreveport represented in there. The only team that's even in the general vicinity of that corner of the state is North Webster, where the big note there is Coach Chris Wilson taking over that program. I don't know if you have had a chance to keep up with him at all since he took over. But any thoughts on him getting that opportunity and in a district that has Bastrop, Carroll, Richwood, and Sterlington? I know it's
Uh,
outside of your true coverage area, but he's a guy that's been around Shreveport for a
Yeah,
while,
and he,
certainly.
and he he hasn't been. You know, we just talked about North Dakota and their running game. You know, he's been a run game coordinator. He's had a lot to do with the success of the running game for the Griffins the last few years. But great to see him, local kid, getting the gig, another head coaching gig. I'm excited for him, and the one thing I know is he's going to bring energy, and I think all eyes are going to be on him just to see how it goes. I mean, at least to start. I don't know if he's actually gotten a place up there yet, but he was driving from here up there every day, and I know that takes a long time. But man, I could imagine what he's thinking about in that hour drive or whatever it is, and the opportunity that he's got, the kids that he's got up there, and he loves high school football. Even when he was coaching at North DeSoto, he started basically an assistant coaching portal. I don't know if you ever talked to him about that,
Mm-hmm.
but he started that, trying to get people all around the state jobs. He would live stream games on Thursday night when the Griffins weren't playing. The kid just loves prep football, and he's got another head coaching gig, and I'm excited for him.
2A is where the next big, from a statewide perspective, storyline rests for you guys up in the Shreveport area. Calvary Baptist, the defending champions of Division III Select last year, they are itching to repeat, and so that's going to be the big storyline that we talk about here in a second in District 1 2A. Their group, along with them in that league, is Darbone Woods Charter, Green Oaks, Homer, another notable team on a statewide level, the Magnolia School of Excellence, North Caddo, and then further out toward Monroe, Union Parish comes over and is with the Shreveport teams now. I know you have kept up really well with those Cavaliers, and you mentioned Devin Harper coming over from Captain Shreve. That team remains absolutely loaded.
Oh yeah, I mean Abram Wardell, Devin Harper, James Simon. I mean, we've gone 10 minutes, haven't mentioned his name yet. Texas running back. I mean, all you have to do is say Texas running back commit, and that certainly opens some eyes. Calvary sort of hamstrung by their district in the past. Their district got a little bit tougher this year, and you look at they start out. How about a battle of state champions with Oak Grove? Last year Calvary played that really tough district non-district schedule, as tough as you're going to get, and ran the table. I thought that was as impressive as their run to the Dome. This year, like we mentioned with Union Parish in there, things are a little different, but getting Devin Harper helps. That as good as they were, getting Devin Harper helps. And, kids like Julius Moss, he's going to get overshadowed on Calvary because of all the names that we've mentioned already. But how good would he be on another team that, that didn't have the stars right here? And heck, this year, his name might emerge as one of those stars, two-way guy. He can do pretty much everything. But we can't, your boy Mark Miller would be mad if we didn't talk about defense. We talked a lot about offense, but the Miller boys are going to have something for him. And Julius Moss, like I mentioned, you always talk about offense. You always talk about Abram. You always talk about the touchdowns. And I was like, hey, welcome to 2024, football and sports. This is what. But the Miller boys are going to be itching to make a name for themselves defensively, and Calvary is just going to be, they're a state favorite for sure.
Yeah, I realized that I needed to stop. Great relationship with Mark, and so I've joked, because I know he knows I'm joking about, man, winning despite that defensive coaching. You got some good talent on that side of the ball, and the offense is doing its thing. If they could just get over that that hamstring of that DC, they'll be great. But he does such a great job, and they do have another talented group there. That secondary has been great in recent years, and they'll be a little bit younger this year around Julius, but they've got a lot of talent there with, Braylon Hugel on the 27, and Trey McDaniel is going to be called upon as a freshman, the same way Braylon was last year. But it's going to be a lot of fun to watch those guys. You mentioned the Oak Grove opener, and then they turn around and have Westgate, and it's going to be a fun year for them.
And you mentioned Braylon, talking to Coach Guin last year before he really had a good year, but even before that, he told me, you might be talking about him like you've talked about some of the great Calvary corners, and we're talking about Greedy and guys like that. He's like you're going to be talking about this kid. So interested to see the next few years. Heck, 3 more years for him. But going back to Mark Miller really quick, in case if this defense thing doesn't work out, he's got a heck of a schedule and graphic design thing going. So shout out to Coach Miller.
So much Mark Miller love today. Hopefully it doesn't go to his head with the season fast approaching. It's a little rat poison for Coach Miller. Wrapping it up, District 1-1A, similarly to 1-3A, you don't have in your true coverage area a whole lot there. The District 1-1A is Arcadia, Cedar Creek, Glenbrook, Haynesville, Jonesboro Hodge, Lincoln Prep, Plain Dealing, and Ringgold. So I know Glenbrook is a team that you probably have eyes on as closely as anyone in that district, with Reagan Smith, the job that he's done in his first couple of years there. And then Haynesville, obviously a program you've covered quite a bit for years with Coach Franklin and company. And we're on they made a dome trip last year with a relatively, by their standards, young roster. And so they'll be fun to watch again this year. Your thoughts from, kind of the outside looking in at that 1-1A?
Well, I want to start with Haynesville. Whenever I talk to anybody about Louisiana high school football, I spent time in Illinois, grew up there, and then went to high school in Florida. And then here, 3 pretty good high school football spots, Chicago, South Florida, and here. And I tell people, if you want to go see high school football in Louisiana, Evangel's great, Calvary's great, the big schools in the city, Airline's great, but go to Haynesville. Haynesville is Louisiana high school football. The stadium, the late kickoffs on Friday night, what the Franklins have done there, the family affair. I mean, if I went tomorrow or this year, week 1, and saw the roster and then compared it to a roster to that when I covered a game in 2000, the last names would be the same. I mean, they just would. That's how it's been in Haynesville, and the Franklins have just done an unbelievable job. So they're obviously going to be a contender this year. But Reagan Smith, near and dear to our hearts here, former Evangel Eagle. If there was a guy that I thought, man, after David Feaster and that craziness leaves a place like Glenbrook, who would be a guy? Reagan Smith. And he's having a lot of fun up there. Offensive-minded guy, sort of I'm going to say he's the 1A version of Justin Scoggin. I think he doesn't get as much love, obviously, as Justin Scoggin, but those 2 guys are so smart and so innovative, and I just love what Reagan does. And I also got to give a shout-out. They're not going to contend for the district, but Plain Dealing and Clint Walker, I talked to him at our banquet a couple days ago. They've got like 18, 19 guys. I mean, that's what you're looking at. They're playing teams like we just talked about. It's going to be tough, but those are the kind of coaches that are what make this game really special, because anybody can coach a team that's going 14-0 or 13-1, whatever. That's a lot of fun. But try coaching a team where you got 19 guys and you're playing those teams. So shout out to Clint Walker, and hope they can end up somewhere near 18 or 19 guys by the end of the year.
There you go. It should be another fun football season around the Shreveport area, and hopefully, folks get a chance to check out this video and get a little bit of a primer of what to expect from around the state. Roy, man, appreciate your time again.
How do I get one of those versus y'all, Louisiana, y'all swag? How do I get some of that? You got a store? I need a shirt to represent.
You're such a pro with the nice, the product pushing there at the end. Yeah, there is a Shopify for folks that want to check it out. I have it linked everywhere, and I can get you a shirt of Louisiana versus all y'all in any number of colors if you'd like. Next time,
send me the link. I'll buy. I gotta support the project.
I appreciate that, man. And again, thanks so much for your time and information and perspective and all that.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
Got it. Again, he's Roy Lang of the Shreveport-Bossier Advocate for Louisiana versus all y'all, Jarrett Roser. Thanks again to Roy for his time, and thanks to everyone for tuning in.